I'll admit, the headline sounds absurd. Venezuela's authoritarian dictator, Nicolás Maduro, somewhat arbitrarily declaring October 1st will be the start of national Christmas celebrations. Such is his power that he can unilaterally make December 25th whatever day he wants.
This year, in honor to you, in gratitude to you, I'm going to decree the advancement of Christmas to October 1st. Christmas will start on October 1st for everyone.
But then you realize this isn't just some bizarre display of power.
He's trying to distract people from what's going on in the country, which is a massive crackdown on the opposition.
The country's opposition leader is quoted as describing Maduro's reign as a campaign of terror. This is the darker side of Christmas in Venezuela. Some of the lyrics there: if you've done wrong, you'd better hide. It's a propaganda video posted here on X by an independent news organization, but widely reported as having been circulated by the country's military counterintelligence agency, rounding up dissidents as part of what the government calls Operación Tun Tun, or Operation Knock Knock. And this is, itself, another reference to Christmas twisted. Tun Tun is a Christmas carol in Venezuela that goes back decades, but it's been adapted many times over. Even kids would know the song. Nickelodeon posted this just a few years ago as part of a series of Christmas songs. But in 2024, Tun Tun is often meant to evoke the sound of armed government agents dressed in all black, knocking on your door at night to arrest you. Maduro himself has used it at his rallies, almost as a taunt, a threat against his enemies, as you can hear in this clip from CNN less than a month ago.
El 5 de agosto, Maduro.
Tum tum.
It has come to represent widespread surveillance, fear, uncertainty. It is what one human rights group calls the deadliest crackdown on dissent in years, with at least 24 people killed and more than 2,400 thrown in jail just in the last month. So let me explain what the sudden arrival of Christmas in Venezuela looks like. Christmas is a big holiday in Venezuela. Most people there are Catholic. The Christmas season lasts for weeks, but this year it also follows an intensely controversial election covered by just about every major news organization on the planet.
Nicolás Maduro has been re-elected for a third term.
Despite opposition claims, it has proof he actually lost by a wide margin.
Most world leaders have held back from recognizing the results.
The election was seen globally with a lot of skepticism. We did a whole explainer about this, how Maduro was far behind in major polls leading up to the big vote. On election night, the opposition declared they had won by a big margin, but the state apparatus backed Maduro up. He had 51% of the vote, just enough to win.
We have serious concerns that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people.
Despite international outcry, Maduro would claim his third consecutive term. The people protested. And Maduro ordered police to silence those protests with tear gas, rubber bullets, and handcuffs.
The protests right after the election, in the immediate days after the election, were massive. They were just massive. Blocks and blocks and blocks of Caracas filled with people. And in the more recent protests, they're still big, but you can see that people are already scared.
Building prisons to hold all of those protesters is big business in Venezuela. The government has an extensive roadmap for expanding the prison network because prisons are already overcrowded, more than 200% above capacity. And thousands more people have reportedly been jailed since July's election. Just days after that result and the protests that followed, Maduro announced the creation of 2 new maximum security prisons. He's since brandished them like sticks at anyone who would dare challenge his authority.
Tenemos 2,000 presos capturados y de ahí van para Tocorón y para Tocuyito. Máximo castigo. Justicia.
The repression is really hardball tactics. It's not just, police lines throwing tear gas to push protesters away. It's murder, it's injury, it's abduction, it's forced disappearance. It's all of the worst crimes.
Human Rights Watch accuses Venezuelan authorities of committing widespread human rights violations against protesters, bystanders, opposition leaders, and critics. They list killings, arbitrary detention and prosecution, and harassment of critics as having become increasingly commonplace.
The latest confirmed number of arrests is from this organization called Foro Penal. It's a legal assistance. They actually provide free legal assistance to people who are detained by the regime. And as of August 26th, they had confirmed 1,780 people had been arrested or detained as part of the protests.
And it's not just ordinary citizens being punished, it's Maduro's political opponents too. Just in the last couple of days, the man who ran against Maduro, there's now a warrant out for his arrest. Edmundo Gonzalez, accused of crimes associated with terrorism.
There is palpable fear in Venezuela. Ultimately, this is a regime that rests not on electoral legitimacy. It is not there because it can win votes. It clearly cannot. It is there because it possesses control over the means of coercion.
Christmas in Venezuela has indeed come early, but what you get depends on who you are. Political repression and economic collapse has pushed millions of Venezuelans, more than a quarter of the country, to flee in just the last decade. Many of those who aren't in jail worry about crumbling infrastructure.
Esto es un caos aquí en Caracas cuando no hay electricidad, porque la movilidad, el trabajo, todo se pierde, se retrasa.
Or they wonder how their meager minimum wage of just a few dollars a month will put enough food on their tables.
The problem with people and students who haven't been able to attend schools, who are suffering malnutrition, who are suffering stunting because of malnutrition, who are still in Venezuela, who will take a long time for them. Some will never fully recover.
Maduro, in welcoming Christmas early, promised peace, happiness, and security. But for whom? That's the question.